You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. Oh, feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who? A fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked that again. Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Hey everyone, welcome to Earth Station Who, and we are here to talk all about River Song. That's right, folks. We couldn't go a summer without some song. That's right. We are going to be talking about the Diary of River Song, Volume 3. And this time, River actually gets to meet a little bit from her past. And we don't mean just the Doctor, but we'll talk all about that in a bit. And it's a great thing. Alex Kingston blows it away once again, and it's going to be fun to talk about it. I wouldn't feel comfortable without my co-hosts up here with me. Let's, of course, welcome Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It is great to be here.
The third volume of River Song. You ready?
Yes, I am so ready. I love River. This was a great one to listen to, and I am raring to talk about it.
And, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
You know, I think when everyone listens to this, we might be doing our panel at DragonCon already.
We might be.
Yeah, exactly. So if you heard us already talk about the River Song thing, come up at DragonCon and tell us what you thought.
Is it safe to cross the time streams like that?
Obviously, River does it, so why not let us do it? So it should be interesting, and we definitely want to hear from you guys at home. So please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. If you can, write us and just say, hey, love what you're doing. This is what I thought about this episode, or this episode. Or tell us what your plans are for, is Doctor Who, are you going to stick with it when it comes back? Or, are you done with it or whatever? Or are you finding something else? We want to hear from you guys. This is, there's no new Doctor Who news coming out of England right now. So we really, I guess we just want to hear from you guys and get your thoughts on everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And, if you're hearing this before our panel at 1 p.m. on Saturday at DragonCon, we are going to be deconstructing the Doctor. And it's going to be a lot of fun to do that. And thanks to our friends over at the Brit Tracks of DragonCon to sponsor us for this and bring us on board. And that will be also for everybody our next episode. So you'll be able to hear if you're not able to be at DragonCon. So pretty cool.
Yes, because it's well established that the Brit Tracks room exists beyond space-time. Like the usual rules of causality do not apply.
That's why they're able to, schedule 4 or 5 panels at the same time.
Exactly. That's why you can go back in time and watch. You can watch we could be on a panel from 3 years ago this weekend.
Sometimes it feels like it. It really does. Also depends on how much pie we have in us. So,
what was
our
panel
just stopped
3 years ago?
3 years ago? I think 3 years ago isn't that when we did the history of the Cybermen?
I was just thinking that. Was that Cybermen?
I think that was the Cybermen one we did.
Right, because last year was the Stephen Moffat era.
Yes.
And then before that was that like the culminate? Was that the look at Peters? No.
Yes.
Yeah?
That was the Peter Capaldi wrap up. And
yeah, because that's what he was there.
Yeah. No, Capaldi was last year.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I get it all confused. Yeah, timey-wimey. They're all blend into one.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So,
we've just done some great stuff at DragonCon.
We have. And I don't know how long we've been associated with Brit Tracks, but it's a great relationship. So.
I think we pretty much since the beginning of this podcast, I know we've been involved with BritTrax, but I know BritTrax was actually one of the first panels I ever did at DragonCon. This was back probably before I started even podcasting. I think it was like 2009 or 2010. I did a panel and it was Star Trek versus Doctor Who, and we had to defend Doctor Who, and defending Star Trek was one Mr. Peter David, who is, very well known in the Star Trek verse as an author and also with Marvel Comics. So
did he win?
He always wins, It was pretty cool. So yeah, Caro and her crew, cannot say enough about them, speak highly. They're just always wonderful to us. And thank you guys for including us year after year. And hopefully this is going to be a long-term relationship that we can keep on, talking and enjoying each other's company. So with that being said, no new Doctor Who news, like I said earlier. So the one thing we did get, though, this week was from our friends over at Big Finish, and it kind of ties in what we're talking about this week. They've announced, ready for this, folks, Series 6 of the Diaries of River Song. And River is actually going further back, and she is meeting the first Doctor and his original companions.
Yeah, that should be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that.
It should be interesting, but it's also kind of cool because on the cover, I think she's also meeting Django and Lightfoot.
Yeah, she's missing. She's meeting Django.
Yeah, because Lightfoot passed away.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it's during that time. In fact, Chang and Mr. Sin, I think, have an appearance as well.
Mm-hmm. I saw pictures. The cover, it looks awesome. So it's tying right into the Talons, and that's pretty cool. But I also saw Santorin on the cover too. So,
and the Yeti and the Great Intelligence, and yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff.
I'm very curious to see where this goes, and good on our folks at Big Finish for putting this out. And if you order it right now, you can get it for $20 to download.
Yeah. They've released season 6. Now there's not a lot of information on it, but you can also pre-order series 7 right now for $20 as well. Sorry. And that means that it's continuing. I don't know, apart from the actual ones featuring doctors, I don't know how many others have gone this long with this mini series, but I have to think that this is one of their most successful lines of stories.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And, they're hugely successful, and Alex loves being River Song. So I continue for as long as she's comfortable with doing it, as far as I'm concerned. I would love to see her meet Jodie, though, on TV. That would be an interesting thing.
That would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be awesome.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens and where we go with it. And, go ahead and order it. We'll eventually, probably by this time next year, we'll be up to Series 6.
Wow, you think so?
Yeah, that's optimistic of you.
I know, right?
We have a lot of time to fill, so yes.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Anything to avoid trial.
Damn straight. Damn straight, my friends. So, yeah, so I'm willing to do, more Big Finish on the show. So, and that'd be actually great for our listeners to start sending in, ideas for us to review of, Big Finish stuff, because none of us are experts on Big Finish at all. And I think that would be kind of neat for the listeners at home and also up on our Facebook group to send us suggestions of what episodes of Big Finish stories to listen to, because we're game. There's so much out there, and there's so many like spin-offs, even not with doctors in it, but it has, like the Django and Lightfoot, which I mentioned earlier. There's also unit stories. There's also alternate Third Doctor stories. And, it just goes on and on and on with there's, different things on top of River Song. We would love to hear about those, wouldn't you guys?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, I'm game. I mean, we haven't heard a bad one yet. Some are better than others, but as far as the production values, I mean, Big Finish is top notch.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And a lot of times the stories go real quickly, and we'll talk about that now when we get into the review. And might as well jump in with both feet. You guys ready for the Diary of River Song Volume 3?
Da 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 da.
Hell, you saved me from having to play the theme now. Thank you, Mary.
That's awesome. That's the way I want to hear it from now on. Like,
They should hire me.
They should.
Yes.
Is there a way I could get that as a ringtone? It is, I think I've said it before when we've done 1 and 2. It doesn't even evoke River Song to me.
It doesn't.
Like, when I hear it, I don't think, oh, that's the perfect theme song for River.
Yeah, it's a strange choice, and they play it all the time.
Yes, and it seems like they crank it up a couple decibels too. So, you're listening to people talking, and then within 2 seconds, all of a sudden, this blaring noise comes out, and you're like, "Oh, that's alarming."
Yeah, especially if you're wearing headphones, it wakes you up.
Oh yeah, I was sitting at my desk at work, and I was just like, "Whoa!" And
Yeah.
and it's in my office. It's an open floor plan, so half the floor was looking at me like, "What?" And I was like, "Never mind, no, don't worry."
But they are pretty much cranking these out. I mean, to kind of piggyback on what we talked about at the top of the show with the new releases. I mean, this was released in January of 2018. So yes, we are about a year and a half behind. But I mean, in a year and a half, they've released 3 more, right?
Yeah,
they're fast.
Yeah, so they're releasing at least 3 of these a year, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And,
I knew they had to do Tom because Tom's getting up there in age.
Well,
but it's pretty awesome, for
aren't we all?
Good point. But they did Tom in Volume 4, and then for Season 5 they did the Masters, which was really awesome.
Yeah. Now, Series 1, of course, was Paul McGann.
Mm-hmm.
Series 2 was we had 2 of them, right?
Yeah, we had Sylvester and Colin.
I don't know. I'm kind of hoping they haven't really released information about Series 7 yet, but I kind of wouldn't mind a season without a doctor.
Just River going out on her own.
Now I do know that I think one of the seasons, is it 5, just has multiple versions of the Master.
Right, and each story in it is a different Master. It's
right, so I don't think there's a doctor that appears in those.
No, but also if you remember when we did that, the women's rights episode of Finish, that it was Leela and River together.
Yes. And that was interesting dynamic because I think I've said this about, certainly the second series. It felt like every time she meets the doctor now, these earlier incarnations, she has to, make something up or allude to the fact that they're married, but she can't tell them. And it just gets and even in this one, it kind of gets a little strained. They obviously have chemistry, but yet, and then it kind of makes the doctor out to be a doofus because he can't figure it out. I don't know who you are. Really? You're the smartest guy in any room.
Yeah, and I think they play it up too much. I mean, there's no reason to do that.
At least in this storyline, she didn't have to use the lipstick for it.
She did use a lipstick.
Not at the end, though.
Well, not at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
So, I did because it got old in season 2, that's how she both made Colin and Sylvester's doctors forget. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Actually, the sequence with the lipstick was one of the funniest bits, I think, in this one, because she's actually talking. She's like, just go with it. Like, sitting there talking. As, like,
you'll enjoy it. Trust me.
just relax and go with it, will you? Like, that's funny.
And he's going, yeah, exactly. There were some great bits in this one. And I like this one. I enjoyed this season more than the first two.
Definitely.
I think it moved smoother. The stories were more interesting, and it was also great to have Frances Barber back.
Yeah. Yes, and she was good. And it was an interesting conceit with the different incarnations, I guess you would say, clones.
Well, basically clones of River, or at least genetically clones of River.
Yeah, I'm not sure they were like twins of River, but they used her DNA to create more like her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while since I've seen this season with Kevorkian.
Kavarian. Madame
right.
Kavarian.
Yes.
Madame Kavarian, right. So it's been a while. I think Dr. Kevorkian, really? That's a different doctor. Not nearly as cool.
Yeah, that's the last doctor.
That's the last doctor I'm going to meet.
Exactly. You don't want that doctor to appear in a TARDIS at your door. Wow, that got dark.
Wow.
But it's been a while since I've seen that season. So some of the timeline and a little bit of that was muddy to me as far as, okay, so I know we're getting into spoilers, but the first story has to do with a lot of River's sort of brothers and sisters, right?
Correct.
That crash land on a ship. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're all kind of wondering who they are. And one of them in particular takes it upon himself to sort of experiment on the others.
Exactly, and he calls himself the Great Lake, which I thought was funny as hell.
Yeah,
I like how they all have like kind of water themed names.
Yes, Brooke.
Yeah, Brooke and Lake and Lily's not so much, but still, it was kind of And I think there was another one in there, but I can't remember actually that one. So anyway, but so I was like, do I remember seeing others? That she was she the only one? And
on the TV, she was the only one.
Yeah, they didn't. Gotcha. This was a new thing.
This was completely all.
So this was brand new.
Yeah,
that Kavarian had like a bunch of them
for being
for the church, really.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It completely makes this storyline completely makes sense that she would use River as a genetic building block.
Yeah, because why wouldn't she?
Exactly. She had the guts enough to, basically kidnap Amy and, steal the baby and train it to be an assassin to kill the doctor. And that became River. Why not basically use its genetics? Because she already knew that she was its proto Time Lord. And that basically she had the DNA that, from a Time Lord, that she could create other beings to have the regenerations. They never went into that with the TV show. Kavarian, until the halfway point of that storyline, you never saw her other than that little slit,
in the door,
the door and everything, or in the wall or wherever it's kept on appearing. And then after that story, which was what Demons Run, then after that storyline, you didn't see Kavarian till the alternate Earth, where the
till the wedding of River Song.
Exactly, and then basically,
kind of implied that Amy kills her.
You assume that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I said it's implied.
Yeah,
and they talk about that here. They call it an alternate timeline.
Exactly,
right.
And basically, this is what happened to her in our universe, not the alternate one.
Right.
It's really interesting. I do really. What I really liked about this series is it really dives into River's backstory as Melody, which we don't get any of. I think this is the first time we've ever really explored that, or anybody's explored that. So I really was captivated every time she was talking about, especially in the later stories where she's talking about and referencing, growing up and, being put in the room and all that kind of stuff, the relationship that she had with her and the training and the punishment and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, I mean, we've always known that, there was a period of time where she was, where she was Melody. When we were introduced to her as Melody, she came. That's when we first saw her as like the assassin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But how she got that way from being like the little girl to that, it was kind of interesting to. And it's weird because whenever she talks about herself in those days, I picture a young Alex Kingston, but I really should be picturing whatever the actress's name is that played Melody.
Melody, or also the little girl, because they even talk about the spacesuit in this.
Yeah, because there's the little girl before.
Exactly, and they also talk about the orphanage, and they talk about this in this.
Yeah, and it was cool because I think we always forget that, like, that River's on her third regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That we know of.
That we know of. We don't know
that we know of.
Well, we don't know if there were ones before.
Is there a war river? Is that what you're saying?
Wow.
River just kept regenerating.
Ooh, I'm writing series 7 right now.
Well, and that kind of would make sense if there's another regeneration, because you saw the little girl regenerate at the end of the astronaut story. That she regenerated in the alley, but that was 1969 still.
Yeah, and we didn't see what she regenerated into.
Exactly, and we didn't meet Mel's until when she was a little girl. But even if Amy was in the 90s, that had to be a 10 to 15 year difference. So there's other Rivers, regenerations out there.
Possibly.
Yeah. So, because, before River had the vortex manipulator, she couldn't travel through time.
Well, she might have been able to somehow stay as a little girl for that long rather than grow older. I mean, we don't know. They don't talk about it.
Exactly. Wibbly wobbly stuff,
Sorry, part of me is still now really wishing that John Hurt was still around so we could have a storyline with Alex Kingston and John Hurt.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been incredible. So that's unfortunate that I don't think they recorded it before, he passed. I know they recorded some things with him, but unfortunately I don't think that was it. It would have been nice if that was, but anyway, so that's what I really enjoyed. Like the stuff with Peter was okay. It was fine actually. Although some of it was stuff I had a little problematic, but
I have to say he's kind of the weakest link.
Yeah, he's not really necessary at all to this. And once again, I know that River's the star of this series, but the Doctor, it's the same thing with the second series a little bit, is the Doctor kind of comes across as a buffoon. Like he doesn't like, I mean, obviously we're used to the Doctor saving the day, and this is River's, obviously this is her diary, so she can write it however she wants, right? But, there's times where he just seems like kind of just dumb.
Yeah. Well, and he doesn't, I don't know, unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of personality in this one. But I mean, which was kind of the problem with 5 on TV also. But it's still, there's some nice interactions with him and River. And what I like is that you get, to touch on what you were saying before, you just get deeper into the emotional levels of River. I mean, why she is the way she is, what she went through as a child, because I mean, she is a tragic hero. She was tortured for a lot of her life.
And she was created to be an assassin. She was created with a purpose to assassinate, to kill the Doctor, and she ended up falling in love with him and marrying him, and now being his biggest defender, which is, totally turning that around and really, rising above your programming.
Oh, very much so. And that was the interesting part about it because, as she said, she broke her programming to join with the Doctor instead of killing him. And, when she tried to kill Kavorian and she found out that she couldn't, that, I'll eventually beat this too, type thing. And
yeah, because you believe her.
And you believe it.
Oh, damn straight I do. Oh, yeah. And Frances Barber played Kavorian such a snake. It was awesome.
Well, I will have to say that, so we're introduced to her in the third story, right? And I think the third story is My Dinner with Andrew.
Right, it's the dinner one.
My feelings is that that's the weakest one.
Really?
Yeah, I like the idea of sort of this restaurant. Like, it's almost like it reminded me a little bit Douglas Adams, the restaurant at the end of the universe kind of thing.
Yeah, it was very influenced by Douglas Adams.
Oh,
but
very much so.
I will tell you that the maitre d' and the outrageous accent really started to annoy the crap out of me.
I loved the maitre d'. He was one of my favorite characters in the story.
It just didn't. He like within 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh God, is he going to be?" And he was in the whole thing, and even to the second one a little bit. And I was like, "Ugh!" I just didn't care for him. So that ruined that one, I think, for me. Plus, it just seemed like it was a lot of, going back and it seemed like it was an endless loop kind of thing. And it was just, I don't know. It just didn't really, and I thought, is this how they're going to use her? Like, really? Doesn't she get to do anything more interesting than this?
Well, it's an ambitious story to do on audio because when you're, you've got people switching out,
right?
Doppelgangers, you've got time, going back and forth in time. It's hard to portray that on audio. It gets confusing. I got confused.
That's in the first story. I got confused by that. Where they were.
Yes, I could see that. That was a little bit difficult. And in fact, I got confused. I got even voice-wise, I got confused because when the second story started and Brooke was introduced as the Doctor's companion, I thought it was the same voice as Lily. And I was like, what is happening? Like, is this the same? Like, did she regenerate again? And so I was carrying that bag for a little while in that episode. And I kind of figured, then I let go of it because I guess I was like, no, she doesn't have anything to do with her. Until the end when she betrays everybody. And I was kind of like, well, maybe she is Lily come back. And so I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that was the weakest story for me. The second one.
Yeah.
The one where they're in Vienna.
The slugs eating the people from the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I've said that the Big Finish production is the best, and they are. But that finale sequence where people were dying and you just have this sort of loop of people screaming was it felt like 10 minutes. It was like, can we just not I get it, people are in pain, but the fact you would never do that if you were doing this visually, right? You wouldn't have just people screaming in the background all the time. And because if they're literally being eaten from the inside, they wouldn't just keep screaming like that. I don't think. I don't know. I guess it depends on the person, but yeah, that one. But I like the fact that they went back in time and they sort of, touched upon a historical thing. Because I don't think we've seen River do that before, have we?
Not really. Not in the stories so far.
So I kind of like that. And I kind of felt like, this would have been a nice Fifth Doctor story, actually, I take it Brooke was introduced and created just for this story. I don't think the Fifth Doctor's been running around with Brooke in the Big Finish adventures, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that actually caught me off guard when they first introduced Brooke. I'm like, it
caught River off guard too.
Did I miss something? Was she?
Yeah.
Because she was about to say, "Oh, you must be with," like, I think she was going to say Tegan and Nissa or something like that.
Right.
And she's, "Hi, I'm Brooke." She was like,
Okay.
And yeah, so no, Brooke is completely an original character for this story. And so it was interesting to see because she almost, I felt like I had the turn she took to turn out to be one of the assassins sent to kill the doctor. It was just like, I wasn't expecting that. And that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, but it was a nice twist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew I didn't like her because she was really whiny about
River.
Yeah, I mean, look, we kind of experienced that a little bit with Rose when she met Sarah Jane, but this was worse.
Yeah, well, and she just kind of went on and on.
Yeah, she kept going, she kept getting really jealous about that and vocalizing it to everybody. And what's the doctor supposed to say to that? So it put the doctor in a weird situation as well. At one point he does have a funny line where he goes, "This never happened with Tegan and Nissa," which is kind of funny. Yeah, I was like, man, poor Fifth Doctor, because he continues to have companions that I just don't like.
He just cannot win.
I don't think I've ever liked any of his companions at all. Even in this story, I'm like, don't like your companion here.
Except for Adric.
Oh yeah, love Adric.
You're the one. Okay, gotcha.
All right, Pete, buddy.
Wow.
So what did you think of the last one with the Furies?
That was my favorite. The last story, the Furies, is my favorite. I thought that was really, it came together really well, and we finally get, River versus Madame Kavarian and all the stuff with the other clones, and River gets her sisters to turn on her, and I just, I like that. The impending robots that were coming was kind of loose, and there's that sort of. And I guess you kind of have to blame. All right, I'm going to do this. What a big Stephen Moffat fan I'm in. But you have to blame him a little bit for leaving all of that so loose. Exactly what the relationship was between Kavarian and the church, and what that whole thing was all about, because it was so messy, and the way it ended was horrible, and. So we don't really. So here, Big Finish is trying to pick up some pieces of it, and they don't fit very well. And I think that's because it never fit really well.
Yeah, well, I think they did the best they could.
Yeah.
But I like that they made it clear that Kavarian was a branch of the church that sort of went off on its own.
Yes,
wasn't sanctioned by
exactly.
The church, because that made more sense.
Exactly. They even said that the church abandoned them.
Yep.
And that, that pretty much they were all on their own.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, she really, in some ways believes that she's doing the right thing. I did think the fact that the doctor was haunting her was really kind of strange. I don't know if that was that explained?
Not really.
Okay. So it wasn't just me.
No, I was waiting for it.
Yeah, they didn't really.
So, because she was literally going insane. The doctor was scaring the crap out of her.
Well, I like the fact that they kind of, at the beginning, it seemed like it was a voice that, and I have to give Peter Davison some credit here. Even though, the Fifth Doctor comes across as, he's not depicted very well in some of these stories, but Peter Davison does a great job, not only as the Fifth Doctor, but as Andrew. I think he's great as Andrew.
He is great as Andrew.
And then in the last story with his voice, because you don't recognize, I didn't recognize that voice right away, but slowly throughout the story, it starts to morph into the Doctors. And I thought that was really well done.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andrew became more cultured, because I figured when River first found him, he was living some bumpkin life.
Mm-hmm.
Out on his own. And then, when he took over the restaurant, he became more cultured and had probably many years to build the whole restaurant and, had to adjust to the clientele and everything. And so he started sounding more and more cultured, more like the Doctor. And so that's where we ended it. And poor Andrew, bit it at the end pretty much.
Well, then we find out that the body that's on the ship that's supposedly haunting her is not even the Doctor.
Nope. And I was like, really? Really? It was Andrew the whole time.
The power of suggestion. You just had to
and that was that was disappointing, because in My Dinner with Andrew, she kind of makes it a point to say, like, I can't just, she says I would sacrifice him. And she goes through that with herself, like, I don't want to. And she's going to, she does what she can to save him by, like, throwing him back in time. And then ultimately he dies anyway because of what Brooke does.
Yep.
Like, Brooke makes the decision that she can't.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of, I'm like, are we supposed to applaud Brooke for that? Because, yay, the Doctor's still alive, but this poor innocent guy got killed in his place.
Yeah, but I like it when stories do that, when they don't make it black and white. Yeah, it's messy because life is messy. There's not necessarily a good answer to something. There's just, everything has consequences.
Exactly. And that's the cool thing about it is, you always assume that, they killed the fifth Doctor, but it's like, obviously they couldn't. And River figured that out, but it was interesting that race of robots were attacking basically the Furies because they thought the Doctor was killed. So that part didn't make sense either, because if it wasn't the Doctor, if he didn't die, why would they be coming after them?
Yeah, why was the state of everything so in flux with the death of this dude?
Well, because everyone believed it was the Doctor.
But how would they know?
Well, they didn't know. They just assumed.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was that was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
It was very timey-wimey.
Yes.
It was really, it was very ambitious what they were doing with this audio.
That's true.
They really took some chances here, and I think for the most part, it paid off.
Like I said at the beginning, this was my most enjoyable season of River Song so far.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. For me too.
And I do too. This is the best season that they've done yet. And it's ambitious. And even when they kind of fail at it, I have to give them props for the effort.
Right.
Because even though My Dinner with Andrew was my least favorite, I still really appreciated, writing that had to be like trying to keep all your ducks in a row, and that writing that story and producing it and doing the vocals and everything must have been just crazy to try to keep up with the continuity on that.
Yeah, and try and to do it in audio, you can't give anybody any visual cues. So that was pretty amazing, actually, that they pulled it off. Well, for me, they pulled it off.
Yeah, well, I think my biggest problem was the
annoying character,
the Mater D. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mater D too, but if you didn't like him, then I could see that.
Yeah. Well, and I like how the Maitre D was also the assassin. Also. And so he was, working with River Song, but, through different eras. And I love how, every time River did a time jump, oh, nice to see you again. And she was like, huh? You mean I have to go back further? And it's like, Madame, I don't have to tell you again that, we are the interdimensional.
Remember where you are.
Exactly. And everything. It's interesting because they do cover art for each of these episodes. And, the Lady in the Lake has a picture of Death. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Kevin as Death, the character.
Sure.
And then on the second one, it had the Diary of River song with the Requiem for the Doctor has, of course, Peter's Doctor, River, and Brooke. And then My Dinner with Andrew was 2 versions of Peter Davison's Doctor, the 5th Doctor. But then on the Furies, it has Kavorian, River, and also Mel's on the cover, which is interesting because she doesn't appear anywhere in the story.
Well, I thought that was Brooke.
That's the actress who played, that was Mel's from the episode.
I think that's supposed to be Brooke.
Is it supposed to be Brooke?
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I took it to be.
Okay.
Because I'm like, who else could it be? She's like the 3rd most important character in this story, so it must be her.
My guess was it was Brooke.
Okay.
Which, if Brooke's cloned from River, Melody, then that makes perfect sense, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That she would look like her.
It would be interesting.
So going back to I know we didn't talk a lot about Lady in the Lake, but it's really interesting. So you've got a Time Lord here, or someone with Time Lord abilities, because I don't think we can really call them Time Lords.
No.
Proto-Time Lords.
They have Time Lord abilities, and particularly when it comes to regeneration. And so you have a guy here who doesn't know how many lives he has, so he wants to find out. So he's killing all of his brothers and sisters to find out how many deaths they have. And there's a couple of interesting things that happens here, because it seems to imply a little bit that Time Lords can do this too. That Time Lords have different number of lives that they acquire, and that they can choose who or what they look like when they regenerate, which we've gotten a little bit of hints at from the show, but this seems to really go along with that.
Or at least some of them can.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously they're genetically engineered, so I mean they might have abilities other than what real Time Lords have, but at least as far as this continuity goes, it seems like they're kind of establishing that, which I found was interesting.
Yeah, it was an interesting conceit. Also, just the whole thing about how people are committing suicide, and they get to die in the way that they've always wanted to die. In other words, as a hero, of their story or whatever it is they want.
Yeah, I'm not sure the two concepts meshed as a good story. But I did think that, yeah, both of them on their own were kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, very much so. And that's the interesting thing about it, is eventually all these different stories tied up. But with the first story, it all tied up really well. And, when it ended up that the young lady that River saved from the dragon, basically, and in the cave, ended up being the big bad. I didn't expect that. And getting killed by the big bad. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that
was.
And
the fact that she kind of was an instrument in getting her killed.
Right.
Which makes the stuff with Andrew later on even more kind of reflective of that, because it happens to almost another extent along with that. It's weird because you got these 4 stories, and out of all 4 of them, the person that River's trying to save or help or whatever dies, every single time, in every single one of these.
Yeah, it's very similar to a Doctor Who episode.
Well, no, I mean, he at least gets to save, his...
I don't know, he loses quite a lot of them.
He does, you're right. His body count is pretty big, but not like this, not 4 in a row, including one of them being the Doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what this whole thing is about, death. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, we start with death. I mean, death is Kevin, but it's still death. I mean, that just foreshadows the whole thing.
Yeah, that whole planet there is all death zones. And
Yeah.
that people, pay to get killed. And I loved the whole thing that with the death contract, when you sign it, you're already dead. Because
that was wild.
That was just like, yeah, we push you back 7 days. So you've already been dead for, however long.
Gone. Bye-bye.
This is your death certificate that you're signing. And it's like, oh, okay, too much. Ooh, that was too much for me, but it was good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Now, do we know where about in River's timeline these take place? I think I might have asked this before when we talked about.
And I'll respond to you the same way I did the last time. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, and I don't think they really give us any indication of where.
Well, they give us some indication because at one point she does say, I'm on my 13th, 12th husband, depending on how you look at it. So we know that she's gone.
That's right. You're right.
Gone through up to Peter.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're right. I forgot about that.
That's a good point because you don't. Yeah,
and obviously this all has to happen before the last episode with Peter.
Oh, of course, because that episode leads right into the library.
Yeah.
Story. So, goes from there. So probably sometime I would say before the Husbands of River Song.
Yeah.
It's
not. I mean, it's not linear anyway.
No, you're right.
Doctor Who is not linear. We've talked about this so many times that, some of these seasons, especially in the Moffat era, those stories did not go in order. And it's obviously, the Doctor goes on adventures between what we see. It's now the same thing with River Song.
Well, I think you could say that these stories do go in order. These 4 stories.
These 4, but it could
or at least are all connected.
They're all connected, but, you also, though, season 2 could take place before season 1 or season 3.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah, these stories, it's we used to joke about it with James Bond. What order are those in? Type thing. Also,
well, yeah, because I do like the fact that too that even though these are consecutive stories, I mean they're basically chapters to a whole underlying story. The next story doesn't start it's not like the first story or the second story or whatever ends on a cliffhanger and then it goes right into the other one, because whenever the other one starts you're kind of like, okay, now where am I, when does this we just left on a this doesn't seem to connect right afterwards. Instead you kind of have to do a little bit of catch up because there's the way that all these stories start, it kind of puts you in a different place first.
Yeah, that was a little jarring. I mean, but they all stand on their own, I think, but they're all connected. And it when they first start, you're like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah, I think certainly for the first 2, I think that's true. I think you need. I think My Dinner with Andrew is definitely a 2-parter with the Furies.
Yeah.
You don't leave the Doctor dead.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. That's a very, very good point. But then, the episode before that, when, basically River is taking Brooke to the restaurant to meet with whoever was controlling her and sending her to sending him to kill the Doctor. So those 3 do tie together also.
Well, no, the second story ends with Brooke revealing herself, and then it ends. And you're like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? And then My Dinner with Andrew starts, and you're like, okay, now they're in a restaurant. It's really. And then they she has to go kind of back and explain where the Doctor and Brooke and all that kind of stuff left off, but. It's not a cohesive start and finish or finish and start.
It doesn't flow one into the other.
Yeah,
no,
it doesn't. I mean, I think obviously you can put it together once it happens and then fit the pieces in, But boy, when you're listening to episode 3, you're kind of like, what's going to happen with Brooke? What's going on? And then you don't get that for a while, and it's kind of frustrating, especially if you're binge listening to them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
and most of the time you are, especially when you have to do a review of them.
Right before Dragon Con.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think they kind of did that on purpose because they were trying to do it in a non-linear way.
Yeah, I think so. And, I mean, obviously they did it on purpose.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean,
it's not like, what? You're kidding.
But I really applaud them for attempting to do that in an audio because, I mean, it's hard enough to just get from point A to point B in an audio and make it clear. And they did a fantastic job, I think. I mean, I really like this one.
I think audio-wise, as far as River's chemistry with any of the doctors she's played with, as far as audio-wise goes, I think she still has a more of a chemistry with 8 than any of the others. But this one isn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of chemistry with her and the doctor here either, but I don't think it matters in the sense that River Song is such a strong character throughout, and she has such good interactions with other characters that it just keeps the story going.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout it all, Alex is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, she's always putting in a performance, and she's just great. She's always selling it.
Yeah, it's a good cast here throughout, I think. And Frances Barber is again just wonderful as Madame Kavarian.
Yeah, it's really nice to kind of fill in some of those gaps that were left, whether intentionally or not by Steven and during that whole era, because I do think that was, certainly, I don't know if Steven had more to tell and Matt left before he could tell it or what happened there, but it just became a convoluted mess, some of that stuff. And I'm glad that, at least Big Finish is said we're going to pick up some of the pieces and make some sense of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you know what? Let's hear more. So before the end of the year, I'm sure you're going to hear another, River Song. I can almost guarantee it.
Well, okay.
So, hey, dudes, we have, there's only so many old series episodes we can, listen to and talk about in a row.
We get the Fourth Doctor for Christmas.
Exactly. So there you go. I think that's a great Christmas present. So it'll be very interesting. So I don't think we need to go ahead and rate this. Do you guys want to rate it? Because we all loved it.
Well, love's a strong word. I like it better than the other two. I still think that it's got potential, that I still think there's some stuff that I was like, it's like a 3.5, maybe a 4, if I'm rounding up. But, there's a little bit more that I would like to see as far as some of the writing be a little bit better. But and the relationships with the Doctor be a little bit more, I don't know. I don't want to say original, but I would like to see. I'm really curious to hear what her relationship and how she introduces herself to Tom and what's that all about, because that could really be really interesting. But if it's another one of these like, you're my husband, but I can't tell you, and just I'm accidentally gonna slip and say that you have a Sonic and all this stuff, but I'm not gonna, but I can't tell you, and that's gonna get kind of annoying.
Oh yeah. Nope, totally understand that.
I would almost rather her just to kind of play like she's a different character and not mention that stuff at all.
Or just not mention it. There's no reason to mention it.
Exactly. Well, we kind of get the impression from the show, though, that she has a history with all his incarnations, right?
Yes.
Well, she knows about them. She didn't say she had, interaction.
She has pictures. She said she has pictures of all of them in her diary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's implied that she had interactions with all of them.
Right. But I think it was implied that she had relations with all of them. And I'm not saying sex necessarily, but just like on a level that they understood one another. Right. But obviously that's problematic because that's the doctor. The early ones are looking at the doctor's his future, so that wouldn't work so well. But I don't know. It just like I said, I hope they we've done it with like 4 doctors now, and I'm kind of hoping that like the next one is a little bit more original in how they kind of handle that.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. We will definitely have to see. I'm almost curious to see how she's going to handle the first Doctor.
Yeah, well, that's a ways to go.
Curious about that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true because he's an old man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I'm very, very interested to that. But we definitely want to hear from you guys at home. You know, what did you guys think? Mike gave it a 3 or 4. Mary, what do you give it?
Oh, I think I'd give it a 4.5. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written, very ambitious, and timey-wimey, and good for them for going there and pulling it off, in my opinion. And I thought it was a good cast, and River was fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd highly recommend it. Anybody who wants more River Song, I would highly recommend them listening to this.
Oh, yeah. I still recommend any of them. But, this one, I think is the best of the 3 that we've heard so far. Mm-hmm. So definitely agree with that. I'm going to also give it a solid 4. It was enjoyable. It moved really fast. And the only reason I don't give it a 5 is, I wanted more. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to hear, I thought the best chemistry actually was between River and Gregorian. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, they play off each other really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to see a lot more of that if we ever can. That was just great.
She's not dead.
Not yet. Not yet.
I mean, I just a series of her and Kavarian just sort of trying to out manipulate each other, and I think would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and because she's evil. Oh, she does it really well. That was pretty cool. All right. Please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys at home. Join us in a couple weeks when we come back, and we will be live from Dragon Con, of all things. We are going to be doing our basically deconstructing the Doctor. We're going to take a look at the Doctor and then, trying to take them and see what makes the Doctor the Doctor. I think it's going to be a lot of cool things. And please, if you see us at Dragon Con, say hi, say howdy, we'll, say howdy back, maybe buy you a drink or whatever, we'll just have a good time. And you know what? Thank you everybody for listening. My name is Mike Faber. For Mary and Mike, we will talk to you next time here on the Earth Station Who podcast. Peace. And we're done.
Yay!
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
Hey, pardon the interruption, but do you want to learn more about love, lust, sex, anger, happiness, music, time, space, and the human race? I hope you do, because I'm here to beg you to listen to Soulforge Podcast. We're your weekly dose of life and living here on the ESO Network. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts, and soulforgepodcast.com. A proud partner of the Rusted Robot Podcast here on the ESO Network. Let's find out together.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic Store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.